They had us winning by 2 touchdowns earlier this week, and the spread keeps lowering and lowering and lowering the closer we get to this game. Here's why that's dumb as fuck. The house is now divided. It's your resident Buckeye fan. Hey, last week I saw some OHs in the comments. I like that. This week, let's get hashtag GoBucks in the comments. And obviously, make sure you like the video. Hey, we're doing something special on Saturdays. Every Saturday, we got a live stream at 11 o'clock. Make sure you join your boys. I'm 5-0 on games of the week. I'm 5-0, so I need your luck to make sure that I'm 6-0. Make sure you guys join. Make sure you subscribe and all that good stuff. Let's get it started with probably the biggest threat in this situation for the Buckeyes, and that's Damon Williams. Damon Williams is a very solid quarterback. The thing that scares me the most is that he's a mobile quarterback, but he can also get it done with his arm, and he's shown improved so far. Now, I want to give all the props to Damon Williams. I want to give all the props to Jonah Coleman. I want to give all the props to Denzel Boston, especially Denzel Boston. I mean, your father's a legacy at Ohio State, but, no hard feelings. So when it comes to this offense, there are some things to be afraid of. There are some people in skill positions that we should note, and especially Damon Williams. I think if we're looking at the quarterback battle between Damon Williams and Julian Sayin, the thing that scares me the most in this situation is that he is a mobile quarterback. And let's just be honest. And at the very least, in years past, that's kind of been our kryptonite in keeping contained, keeping back somebody to spy the quarterback, and ultimately just stopping the quarterback run. In fact, I've seen OU quarterbacks do that in the past. So that's always a scary sight for us as it pertains to our defenses. Jonah Coleman is a running back that can kill you more than one way. He can get his 100 yards plus on the ground, but he can also apparently do it receiving the ball. He can also catch out of the backfield. So that's definitely something to worry about, and it's going to be something to kind of give our linebackers specifically a little bit of a headache. The fact that you can have a quarterback that can run and a running back that can catch. You kind of got to keep your eyes on both of them. They have a decent wide receiver core, which includes Denzel Boston. I think Denzel Boston is a good wide receiver. I think he's somebody that we should probably be a little bit worried about. But we'll get into some things that I think might be able to help that. Now, skill positions seem good for them. Running back, quarterback, wide receiver, those are things to be concerned about. At the same time, their offensive line is weak. Their offensive line is not something that should concern us. They're not going to necessarily win by running the ball down our throats or anything crazy like that. They also have a weak defense. And so if Washington wants to make this thing a shootout, I'll be honest with you, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't think it'll come to that. But if for some reason our defense is not good enough to stop Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, and Denzel Boston from running amok against a top 3 defense, then we can make this thing a shootout, and I will be okay with that to a certain extent. I don't want that to happen. I want to make this a game that should not be close. This game should be even with travel hangovers going to the West. This thing should at least be a 2-touchdown game. I do think Damon Williams is scary with his feet. Alternatively, I did hear College Football with Sam say that Damon Williams is the better quarterback in this situation. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think they're 2 different quarterbacks. I do think Damon Williams can make things interesting with both his feet and his arm, whereas Julian Sayin is basically just arm. There's really no getting out of the pocket with Julian Sayin. And I will agree that this offense is built for a lot of different quarterbacks to succeed, but I don't think that necessarily means that Damon Williams is the for sure better quarterback. I think that's a little bit of a hot take. I'm looking for Julian Sayin to go into his first road game and hopefully succeed through building confidence early. And with that, I think that our running back room should eat, whether it's James Peoples, Bo Jackson, whether it's CJ Donaldson, whoever. I think our running back should be utilized similar to what their running back is utilized like. I would like to see some more flashes of Bo Jackson, of course. I think the way that he's running, like I said before, I've seen great footwork, great explosiveness, great vision. But at the same time, I do want to see some passing to the running backs. out the backfield, and then obviously getting our tight ends into the game. I think the tight end room is something that's been a little understated lately, but we've got some great tight ends that are going to make things happen with hopefully blocking and catching the ball. So I'm looking for both the running back room and the tight end room to eat in this game for sure. Make sure that Julian Sayin is getting comfortable. We're getting easy passes out to the running backs and tight ends. And then obviously, once it's open, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, take it to the house. That should pretty much always be the offensive game plan, right? Whether you need to run the ball, whether you need to get Julian Sayin comfortable by throwing, decently short passes. And then when the opportunity presents itself, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. I don't see why that should ever change. I do think there are some defenses like Michigan, for example, that could put a little bit of a kibosh to that, being that they might be able to stop our running game a little bit. But ultimately, man, it really shouldn't have to change that much from that. If it has to change from the running game is not looking so prolific, it's not really opening up the way that we want it to, it should eventually become, okay, well, we need to, get these short passes off to get Julian Sayin in a groove and then open it up to the opportunities we see fit between Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis. If we've got a tight end that's open down in the end zone, we can throw it to him as well. Like it doesn't really matter. The point is making sure that Julian Sayin is comfortable. We see that he can throw these passes in bunches and still remain extremely accurate. Great deliver on the ball. So I don't see why that offensive game plan should pretty much ever change. Maybe, like I said, the run gets exchanged for short passing, screen passing, things like that. But for the most part, get Julian Sayin comfortable, get him to a place where he feels comfortable, and then heave that ball out to Jeremiah Smith. Simple. Like I said before, the defensive line should eat in this one. I'm not in any way, shape, or form afraid of their offensive line. And I want this to be a game that they build confidence. The job for the edges should be containing to a certain extent. But I want to see Kenyatta in the backfield. I want to see Caden Curry in the backfield. I want to see CJ Hicks. I want to see Bo Atkinson, whoever it is in the backfield. That's for the edges specifically. But then Caden McDonald, we've seen Taiwan Malone earlier this season have a decent game. So I want to see confidence being built in depth. I want to see guys getting in the backfield this time. I know we're going to probably dial up some pressure to get Damon Williams a little bit confused. We've done this with a couple teams now. It worked really well against Arch Manning. Arch Manning is a decently mobile quarterback, as we've seen against Sam Houston State. Damon Williams is going to have a lot of decisions that he's going to make. Can I get this ball to the open receiver? Can I get this ball out to my security blanket in the flats? Or do I need to run the ball? When you have that many decisions, things can get confusing quickly when you're seeing guys flying all over the field. And when I say guys flying all over the field, I mean Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, Iggy, Caleb Downs, McLean, Lorenzo Styles, all of them. Like I need to see them all across the field, giving him different kind of looks, giving pre-snap looks, giving post-snap looks. I think Matt Patricia has done a really good job at making that kind of thing happen. And I don't see why things should be any different in this game. I think he's done well. Let him keep doing what needs to be done. The thing that is really going to be key here is executing and what the game plan has been set to be. I'm sure that Matt Patricia has drawn up a game plan to help neutralize some of the skill positions that they have. And so therefore, it's really down to the guys to make sure that they execute. Do we see guys making mistakes like Lorenzo Styles on the OU touchdown? Do we see Iggy getting called for pass interference? Do we see guys making mistakes, or do we see guys executing? And for all of this season, I have no real reason to believe that this defense won't execute. Linebackers should probably be keeping their eyes on Damon Williams at all times in the case that they're blitzing or not. You can probably get Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles into the backfield if you're dialing extra pressure from one of them, or even Caleb Downs for that matter. I know Caleb Downs isn't a linebacker, obviously, but I mean, there shouldn't be really any reason why we're not dialing in extra pressure, but also keeping a guy back to kind of keep an eye on the quarterback. So if Arvell Reese is going in for pressure, maybe keeping Sonny Styles back to make sure that homeboy doesn't get out of pocket. Things like that. A running back and a mobile quarterback can really open things up for them if we're not executing from that standpoint. And so if we are dialing in extra pressure, I want to make sure that we've got somebody who's keeping an eye on the quarterback to make sure that he doesn't get too far out of pocket, or in the case of, draw plays and things like that, like, we got to kind of make sure that we're keeping an eye on that backfield. I don't think it should prove to be too difficult of a task for the linebackers that we have. Again, they proved to me that they can make sure that homeboy stays at bay, but we need to see, right? People keep telling me that this is a test, but y'all also told me that Arch Manning was a test, and things didn't really happen that way for him. So I have no reason to believe that the linebackers can't get it done in this specific situation. The DB's got to keep an eye on Denzel Boston, the rest of this wide receiving core. And I think this is a elite DB core, right? Jermaine Matthews, Igbinosun, Caleb Downs. I think we're good. I do think that Matt Patricia will probably draw some plays to get Caleb Downs to cause some rackets in the backfield. But ultimately, it's going to come down to these DBs making sure that Denzel Boston and crew are clamped, seatbelt society over here. It's going to be imperative that we're limiting big plays from pretty much all skill positions. And so everybody's going to pretty much have to do their job. At times, the defensive line are going to be by themselves, and it's imperative that they get pressure on the quarterback. At times, one linebacker may be dialed in to add extra pressure. So the other linebacker is going to have to make sure that they're keeping an eye on Damon Williams and make sure he doesn't get out of pocket. At times, some of the DBs may have to be on an island with a great receiver, and it's up to them to make sure that they got their man. We're trying to curtail any kind of confidence, any kind of momentum that can come from big plays. That means limiting mistakes in coverage. That means penalties are a no-no. And that means takeaways are huge in this instance. I feel obviously some of the effectiveness of the DBs are going to be put on the defensive line, making sure that they're getting pressure. But ultimately, like I keep saying, it's really up to the execution of the entire defense to make sure that at the end of this thing, we're leaving with a 2-touchdown victory, 2-touchdown plus victory. Otherwise, this thing can get close. And that's, I think, what most Ohio State fans fear in this situation, is that out of nowhere, Washington then made this thing close. Now, I do think that weaker offensive line should mean more pressure, should mean more guys getting in the backfield, disrupting things. And that means confusion and bad decisions. The things that we want are confusion and bad decisions, not confidence and momentum. I would not be downplaying home field advantage here whatsoever. It's very clear that the guys in the West have this home field advantage that comes with being on the West. Not so much specifically their stadiums, but like a team from the East Coast having to travel all the way to the West Coast. There's an advantage there. It's a completely different aspect that I don't think they necessarily have to deal with the same way when they come to the East. It's a little bit different. And so I'm hoping that there isn't any layover, hangover situations. I do think guys like Julian Sayin and Caleb Downs, I think they're coming to play regardless. But I'd hate to see some of the players that I don't think take care of themselves the way that they should suffer from any kind of layover, hangover situations. A lot of people are telling me that this thing is a game that we should be threatened by. Again, I do think there's a possibility that their offense can make this thing close. However, I don't see that as very likely. I do give respect to Denzel Boston. I do give respect to Damon Williams. I do give respect to Jonah Coleman. I think they're great players. However, it's more than just those three guys or even those two guys in the entire wide receiver core that's going to make this thing close. I think because they have a weakness at offensive line and ultimately they have a weakness at defense, I don't think this one is going to be close because I do have trust in my team that they're going to execute the way that they need to. And then on top of that, we're judging this undefeated Washington team, which is a feat, no matter who it is, for beating teams like Colorado State and UC Davis and Washington State, who aren't exactly Ohio State. And so for that reason, and for the reason, that I trust my team to execute the way that they need to, I got Ohio State winning this thing by 2 touchdowns, at least. All the people who are claiming that this game will be close or that we should be concerned about Washington, ultimately, I think they're just looking for the game that Ohio State falters a little bit, and especially after the Ohio game, which we still won by quite a few scores. I think people are looking for the chink in the armor for Ohio State. I think they're looking for the team that comes out of nowhere and gives Ohio State a fair fight. And while I do think that Washington could potentially do that, I just don't see it the way that other people see it. So long as we execute, give me the Bucks. On that note, like I said, 5-0 on Game of the Week. 5-0. I've called 5 games exactly how they went, and I'm going for 6-0 in the live stream this Saturday, 11 o'clock, the big college football show at 11 with Maze Madman, Johnny Olden, Boxing Maniac, and your resident Michigan fan, Marcus, as well as your boy. So make sure you are there. Make sure you subscribe for more Ohio State previews. Make sure you subscribe for more Michigan previews if you want to see what they're talking about going into their games. And make sure you like the video. It'll help us out a lot. And make sure, my Buckeye fans, hashtag Go Bucks in the comments. Let's go. Peace.